Powered by Righteous Media.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 388. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. It is Thursday, December 4th. I am still coming to you from Northern California, USA. I'm headed home tonight, and it is gorgeous out here. It is a reminder of what an amazing country we have, and California is definitely one of my favorite countries in the world. It's like nothing else. And our guest today coming up is a guy like nothing else. Shawn Harris, retired Brigadier General, running in Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat in northwestern Georgia for Congress. We're going to talk to him in a second. He's a fascinating guy running in a really important and interesting race. He's coming up in a minute, and he's a combat leader who can also help us break down all that's happening. And there is a ton happening. The latest on the U.S. boat strikes, SECDEF, and all of the SignalGate continues to unfold. Yesterday, after we recorded, CNN has reported that the Pentagon internal watchdog has found SECDEF risked endangering troops by sharing sensitive war plans on Signal. This report is going to be released in redacted form to the public as early as today. Senators have seen it. Members of Congress have seen it. And I think the bottom line here is that it is clear now his actions put troops at risk. We've been talking about this on the show for months. And I think that's the most important factor and the bottom line, and has been all along. Beyond all the technical classifications, he could have gotten troops killed. And that's the bottom line. That's why it's wrong. That's why there needs to be accountability. And in my view, it's why he needs to go now, because our troops can't trust him not to get them killed. And he could lead them any day that he's leading them, puts them in jeopardy. I was on TV yesterday talking about it. We're going to continue to dig into it. There's also now reporting, we've been asking this question, why did Admiral Halsey step down? There's a report from the Wall Street Journal that there was a de facto ouster that was a culmination of months of fighting between SECDEF and the Southcom chief, and ultimately SECDEF pushed him out. We'll see more about that. I hope we get to hear from Admiral Halsey himself in public sometime soon. We asked Senator Angus King about that yesterday. If you didn't see it, please go back and check it out. Independent Senator Angus King was on the show. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee. We asked him tough questions about what might happen next. They actually haven't struck a boat since November 15th. Since all this has been swirling, November 15th was the last time that they struck a boat, but the controversies continue. So does the oversight, so do the new revelations, and related. We've been covering the Pentagon press corps and now the emergence of the propaganda press corps. And today, the New York Times has sued the Pentagon over First Amendment rights. Go New York Times, go get them. I think this is really important. The lawsuit alleges that the Department of Defense set new rules for journalists that, quote, violate the Constitution's guarantees of due process, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. I would expect other news agencies that are part of the real Pentagon press corps to do the same. This is so important for accountability, and especially given all the stuff that's happening in the news. More breaking news. The FBI has announced this morning that they arrested a suspect in the January 6th Capitol Hill pipe bombing attacks. This is breaking news today. Scott McFarland, the great reporter at CBS News, who's been on this show, broke the story. We're going to find out more, but this is someone who's been at large for 5 years. I think many folks forgot about it. I think the FBI has been going through so much tumult, but I think it's important to remember we've got FBI folks that are still doing important work, things like tracking down pipe bombers. So we're going to find out more about that. I hope that Scott will join us here on the show. In other news, Trump has renamed the Institute of Peace for himself. Yesterday, workers installed the president's name on the Washington Institute, pushing it back in the spotlight as he's set to host what he's calling a peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. It looks like more optics and more self-congratulations, which is the opposite of what I think we're going to hear from our guests coming up. Attacks continued in Ukraine overnight. It is day 1379 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I want to pull something out. I hope Chris can play a soundbite. But yesterday, there was a really important testimony before the Senate Appropriations Committee. And I'm going to try to get this woman's name. Katerina Rashevska was from the Regional Center for Human Rights, and she brought forward a really important story.
My organization documented 165 re-education camps where Ukrainian children are militarized and Russified. These camps exist in occupied territories in Russia, in Belarus, and in North Korea. In this photo, you can see 12-year-old Misha from the occupied Donetsk region. And in this one, 16-year-old Lisa from occupied Simferopol. They were sent to the Sondowon camp in the North Korea, 9,000 kilometers from home.
Her organization has documented 163 re-education camps where Ukrainian children are being militarized and Russified, including in North Korea. So we've been covering this. They're snatching thousands and thousands of children out of Ukraine, have been doing it for years, and now they're sending them to camps in Russia, in Belarus, and now in North Korea. She pulled up examples of a 12-year-old, of a 16-year-old who've been sent to a camp in North Korea 9,000 kilometers from their home. It's dastardly, it's evil, it's bad, and as any negotiations continue, I think, and many of you probably agree, that returning the kidnapped and abducted children to Ukraine should be a top priority on any peace deal. So we're going to stay on top of that. In other news, the doctor who gave Friends star Matthew Perry ketamine was sentenced to 30 months. There's a lot of talk about ketamine, a lot of talk about drugs killing people in America. This is an example of where a doctor was held accountable. And it's a story we don't cover enough on this show, but I want to cover it more, especially given this conflagration of news around alleged drug boats. In other news, my Knicks bounced back from their loss against the Celtics to beat the Hornets at home. There is some speculation that the Knicks might get Giannis, which would be an amazing early Christmas present to me and any of you who are Knicks fans. The Clippers surprised many, announcing overnight they're dumping veteran point guard and Hall of Famer Chris Paul. Apparently, Chris Paul and the coach have been getting after it, and they just dumped Chris Paul. That's one to watch. And lastly, in sports, our guest is from Georgia. So if he's a Bulldog fan, he's probably pretty happy to be sitting at number 3 in the college football rankings right now, especially since 1 and 2 are going to play on Saturday. Big clash, Indiana versus Ohio State. We will, of course, cover that. It is Thursday. There is a lot going on in the news, but we want to keep you at the epicenter of it. We want to bring you light to contrast the heat, and we want to bring you guests who can help illuminate these discussions. And we're going to do that in a second, because now is most definitely a time to stay vigilant. All right, folks. I've been trying to bring you voices that are at the intersection of national security, politics, diplomacy, all the stuff that we talk about. Also, of course, voices that come from the military, that come from the intelligence community, that come from diplomacy. And we've got a very special guest here that I'm proud to have on the show. Shawn Harris is a retired Brigadier General. He started out as a Marine, and now he is running as a Democrat in the open seat where Marjorie Taylor Greene will be stepping down in Northwest Georgia. It is Georgia's 14th. He has 5 children, 4 grandchildren. They live in Rockmart, Georgia, where they are running a first-generation grass-fed cattle farm. And his wife works as a family doctor. I think they're an inspiring family. He's an inspiring leader. He ran a really tough race. The last time he ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was about 64 to 36. We're going to dig into that. But I'm glad he's here to join us in this moment. He's stepping up to provide positive leadership, and he's going to have a conversation with us. Joining us here on Independent Americans, the great and powerful General Shawn Harris. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. This is awesome. You know, when you rattled off everything that's happening in the world, this is why we need leaders in every key position here around the United States, because things are a little crazy right now.
They are, and I'm glad to have you. If folks are watching on YouTube, which I recommend they do, they would see that you have a shirt on that says "Leadership Matters."
Yes.
And I think that's really, you've also got a buck knife behind you, kind of some military stuff. It looks like a really cool retired general's man cave. But you've also are a man of precision. You got a great sound setup here. I'm really glad you can join us. But I think leadership does matter. And I think leadership can be the problem and leadership can be the solution. I want to talk to you about that and about your background. But let me start by grounding us in the midst of all this. Where are you, sir? And how are you?
Hey, I'm right here in Rockmart, Georgia. This is my hometown now. Northwest Georgia is a beautiful place, beautiful people, and where I'm currently at going on in the world, just like you were talking about what was going on with our Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, whatever he wants to call himself. I was talking about this yesterday, and I look forward to having follow-on discussions today because, as you know, seem like every minute we get some more information on what actually happened in the Caribbean, and then on top of that, we'll just get into it. You should never do anything on Signal. I'll just say it that way. My years in the military, your years in the military, you know you'll be fired immediately, but I'm looking forward to having the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is so basic, and on his personal phone, right? Like these are the things that, you know. I mean, I don't know if you probably brought a private in saying, you know, what the heck are you doing on your personal phone in a certain environment? I know that you know, that was starting to happen when I was in, but I think some of this stuff is really basic. Let me ask you, What's it like on the ground out there in Northwest Georgia? You're out there talking to people. You're a leader in the community. You're also a grandfather and a father. I think it's really important for folks who don't track on politics every day, who aren't in the military veterans community. How do you talk to your grandkids about what's going on? I'm sure they have tremendous respect for you. You're a great role model and an inspiration for them and so many other people. How do you talk to them about their role and what they're experiencing in times like this?
Yeah, when I talk to my grandkids, your grandkids are very special because many times your grandkids don't actually have a clue about who you used to be, and I love that about them. They look at me as just grandpa that got owned some cows, a guy that'll let them drive because 'cause they're not really old enough to drive yet, at least most of them not, and, oh, by the way, everything that their parents say no to, I say yes to. So I'm the perfect guy, but many times when I'm trying to talk to them about what's going on in the world, I keep it at a rated PG or below level for them, but the key thing is to point out to them that as they continue to develop themselves, they need to also be prepared to step up and become leaders for this country because every generation got to be able to carry the weight and keep us where we need to be here inside the world as a great country and a country that everybody else looks to. So that's my message to my grandkids.
They're lucky to have you. I think it's a great thing when a guy like you runs, even though you're up against the odds, because you're a positive energy force, you're a positive voice, you're a teacher. You're just breaking it down. Whether you're teaching about what's happening in Northwest Georgia, or you're teaching about the military, you're teaching about leadership. It's all an opportunity for you to have a bigger platform. But let me ask you to drill down on that a little bit more. You've got kids that are growing up in Georgia. That's about the only part of Georgia I wasn't stationed in the military, but I've been through there. But we've been having this conversation. Are the kids all right? Are your kids nervous? Are they scared? I mean, they're operating in this environment. Do they feel it? They're looking to you for that drive, but they're also having chats with you about what's going on in the world. What's your assessment of how the kids are doing?
Yeah, Paul, I would tell you, my sons are all grown men now. The youngest is still in college, but they're all grown men, and we have different levels of conversations. What I will say is just like when you're in the military, a lot of times that military career turns into a family business. So I still have two sons. I don't talk about this too much, but I actually got two sons that's actually in the military. So as a family, we still got skin in the game, even though I took the uniform off and my wife is a spouse, even though she was never in. I always like to give love to our spouses because, without our spouse, we never could have pulled that career off. So my two sons that's in the military, they clearly understand what's going on, but they also clearly understand that, hey, it's certain things that we don't talk about because I don't want to get them in any kind of trouble in any kind of way because as you can see, maybe the military that you was in, and I would definitely tell you the military that I was in for many, many years, because I just got out in 2023, has drastically changed. But the good thing is many of the senior leaders that names that you see in the news right now are people that I served with. And I know when it comes to this thing of what's happening down in the Caribbean, I know Admiral Bradley is gonna come in, let people know exactly what happened. I know a lot of those things will happen behind closed doors in a secret, top secret type setting. But on top of that, like you said, I wanna make sure we can get it out to the American people because the American people need to understand exactly what we're doing. No different than my sons in the military versus my sons that's not in the military. I wanna make sure that everybody understands what we're doing, why we're doing it, and furthermore, if we should be doing it, and in putting our men and women in danger right now.
Well, let's dig into it a little bit more. This is today's top topic. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. I think there is no topic that is more front and center right now than all of this, all of it. I mean, it's SignalGate, it's the boat strikes, it's the possible war in Venezuela, it's the crisis surrounding Hegseth, it's the War Powers Act. I always believe national security is the number one priority and must be. That even extends to the pipe bomber that was arrested today after they've been hunting for him or her for 5 years. You mentioned that you've been around Bradley before today. He's going to be front and center, I believe, in testimony and in days to come. I think we'll probably see a contrast between him and Hegseth in tone, in politicization, in just aura, right? Like, this is a guy who's been a special operator for a long time, a quiet professional. I don't think he's going to have American flags on the inside of his coat, and banging on the drum and all this other stuff. But let me ask you this: as a retired general, as a guy who has 2 kids in the military now, I don't think they're asking this question enough. How can anyone have confidence in Hegseth right now? I mean, I look back to Gates, I look back to Rumsfeld, we look back, Dick Cheney just died. I mean, folks trusted their competence, right? Their basic competence. This guy is putting out information on his cell phone on Signal and not apologizing for it, unapologetic, doubling down. What's your take on the whole thing, and maybe especially what we'll see from Bradley, not just today, but in the days to come?
No, I would tell you from day one, since he got into the position, I didn't think he was prepared for the job. I thought the job was too big for him, and I thought that what is currently happening right now would be the results, because as you know, when you step into key roles like that inside of our military or inside of our government, you have to be very well versed as being a leader. And the things that he does, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even want to put that down at a captain. I too many captains have worked for me and did an awesome job. He's still down there in JROTC somewhere. He's in the world of saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And the job is too big for him. From a leadership point of view, he needs to step down today and move on, go back to Fox News and do something different. That's not political. That is 100% my assessment as a senior leader. That's what my advice would be to him, because right now, all the things that he has done on his watch is just made America look stupid, made our military look dumb, and on top of that has embarrassed himself.
It's so basic. I was on CNN yesterday with Erin Burnett, and she said to me, do you think that this will, basically she said, you think this will cost him his job? And I said, isn't it ridiculous that we're even asking that question? It should be obvious that it cost him his job. It would cost anybody, any one of these things, an individual, right, would cost anyone their job in the military. Can you imagine an E4 or an E5 trying to explain why they used their personal cell phone to disclose information that could have gotten somebody? Nobody would be having it. It would be shut down. Your rank would be gone. You'd be picking up leaves for the rest of your life. I mean, there is no way this would fly. So I think it's really important for folks outside the military to understand 2 standards are not acceptable, right? Because it erodes at the good order and cohesion across the entire military. Let me ask you, more about Bradley and the others, right? A lot of folks are saying, where are the generals? Why aren't they speaking out? Many of them have been purged. Hegseth has been very successful in removing opposition. Halsey may be part of that. But I also think they're picking their spots, and they're carefully choosing their language, and they're telling us what they can, how they can. I think that Bradley will probably do that. I hope we'll talk to other subordinates or hear from other subordinates and find out the similar points from them. But what's your take on this? If you're a guy like Bradley, how do you approach this? Because you're still in uniform. You got to stand before all the cameras and everything else, probably for the biggest stage of your life. How do you think he's going to handle it, and what can we learn from it?
I would tell you, like I said, I know Admiral Bradley, outstanding leader, been special forces type guy all of his entire career. He will not be rattled. And reason why he won't be rattled, he'll come in there and just give the facts and tell the truth, period. It won't be a spin on it or anything. You will see true leadership. And if a bad call was made as a leader, he will take ownership of it. However, what I believe is going to end up happening, he's going to come in and give the facts. After he gives the facts, you're going to find out that, wait a minute, for whatever reason, our Secretary of Defense, his story continues to change. One minute, he said a couple weeks ago that he watched the entire strike. I think it was yesterday, he changed the story and said he watched the first part, but he had to go to a meeting. Paul, you and I have been leaders for a long time. We control our own schedule. You don't get up and go to a meeting about some budget thing inside the Pentagon when they're doing a major strike that you just ordered. So I think when this whole thing play out, Pete and our president are going to have a whole lot of questions, because I believe it was a lot more people watching that strike from the top. At the same time, it's going to have to be more people all the way down to the person that actually pushed the button will be answering questions. But my key thing is Congress got to step up in a bipartisan manner and make sure we got a real investigation going so that we can find out what's going on so this never happens again.
Yeah, I mean, I think his tenure will be defined by sloppiness and incompetence. And I think that's what most folks, no matter what your politics, and especially if you don't have any politics, will focus on the most. And I think that's a really important question. I mean, there's some reporting today from Martha Raddatz at ABC, who's been on this show, that says, they may have been the wounded guys on the boat may have been trying to communicate to get some reinforcements, to get some help, to get rid of potentially the contraband, or that makes them still active players on the field, right? So that's maybe the justification we will hear from some. But I think you have to really unpack all these pieces. It still doesn't explain where the hell did Hegseth go, right? And the fact that we don't know where he is makes me think it might be something really interesting. Like if he's out getting a haircut, or he was on some podcast, or he was banging a new sign on the wall of the Pentagon, instead of being in the room when not only are we killing potential bad guys, but we've got good guys and gals in harm's way. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine the scene where they're all in the situation room and he goes, "Hey guys, I got to go somewhere." Where the fuck do you have to go that's more important than there right now? And I hope we see an aggressive dissection of all the other strikes too, right? Let's pull the tape, right? My football coach used to say, the eye in the sky don't lie. So let's pull all the tape. Let's find out where everybody was and what they were doing, because this is probably systemic, because we know SignalGate was, right? It's a culture of incompetence and sloppiness, and I think that's an important one to drill down on.
I agree with you 100%. We're discussing this particular strike here, but this was one of the very early strikes. The question is, look at all the rest, just like you said. But I think also Congress need to be asking the question to the president and everybody, hey, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And are we trying to ease ourselves into another war? And if we are, what is the end state? What are we trying to get from this? Because at the end of the day, you and I both know, and everybody else know, the boats that we're blowing up, that boat might have to stop 20 times to get fuel somewhere to get here to the United States. It's not adding up. Right now, we need to get to the bottom of it quickly, because what I don't want to see is us having a war right in our backyard. It's one thing to have a war running around in the Middle East and some other places, but it's a different thing when it's right next door, and now we start having problems that we don't really need at this particular time.
Yeah, I think it's your perspective is extremely valuable here, and I'm going to keep saying it. Dead men don't talk. If they're bad enough to kill, they're bad enough to capture, and even more valuable if you can capture them and get the intelligence value out of them. But let me ask us to pivot.
Let me just say one, Paul. Let
Sorry,
me just say one more thing. When we see the second tape, if those individuals are hanging off the side of the boat or wreckage or whatever it is, all that stuff about somebody's trying to make another call and all this, that's all assumption, because hell, you can't hear and tell what they're trying to do. If that guy is hanging off the boat in the water, hey, I'm be honest with you, the law is very clear. I think we may be talking about a war crime. So we need to just see what it plays out. But I think if we don't watch it, I think somebody's going to have to stand up and say, okay, this was a war crime and somebody needs to be punished. But we'll let time and the investigation get us there.
Okay, so a different kind of war. We're going to talk about the political war happening in your area that you are engaged in now for like another tour. This is below the radar. But I think this is really, really important. You are running again for Marjorie Taylor Greene's now open seat. When you originally ran against her 2 years ago, and you declared to run against her now, she has since dropped out. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, you got clobbered last time, right? Everybody who's running this district as a Democrat has gotten clobbered. So I want to dig into it in a couple different places. But let me ask you, because this is independent Americans, why aren't you running as an independent? Because it feels like a Democrat, you're in a place where Democrats are probably not very popular, but you're probably popular. And if you came in a different package that didn't say Democrat, you might get 40% instead of 30%. I look at your case, and we've discussed a lot of these. It reminds me of Amy McGrath. It reminds me of others. Amy McGrath once told me that Jesus Christ himself couldn't win as a Democrat in Kentucky. But she's also running again as a Democrat in Kentucky. So I want to ask you that straight up. You've run before. You saw how hard it was. She's going to be out, and I want you to help us understand the field that you're up against. But why run as a Democrat, not as an independent?
Well, I tell you, I love that question, and thank you for that question because I would tell you I get that type question so every day. I'll even get it this afternoon, I promise you. But the question here in Georgia is not, are you a Democrat? The question is, Shawn, and this question comes from my Republican friends that are actually voting for me. Shawn, why don't you do like everybody else and just put on a different T-shirt and say you're a Republican? Because here in Georgia, we have voters that are independents. Inside the great state of Georgia, if you're independent, you got to get almost 25,000 signatures just to get on the ballot. With the reality of it, man, hell, you won't get 25 and at the same time try to raise money. So you have to make a decision which t-shirt you putting on. The t-shirt that I have on is Democrat because that is where my values are. I'm not way out some crazy place. I'm more to the center. And that's why Republicans actually came to me last time I ran against Marjorie and said, Shawn, we want you to run for Congress. And I said, guys, I'm retired. I don't want to do it. And they said, no, please run. We're going to support you. And then that's when I told them, I said, guys, I'm a Democrat, thinking they would leave me alone. And they turned back around and said, okay, we're still going to support you. And now in the race that we currently in, with all the, I think I'm running against 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different Republicans right now. It's fine. I still have Republicans coming to me right now saying, Shawn, just change your t-shirt and you will win. We will vote for you. What I say to them is that will be a lie. Why would we start our relationship off on a lie? That's what you had with Marjorie, a bunch of damn lies. On the flip side of the coin, you know who I am. You know where I stand. You know I'm going to be laser focused on our district and getting things done. What you need to do as a Republican or Ronald Reagan Republican is go in there, vote for what's best in your interest, and we work together like Ronald Reagan and others did, reaching across the aisle to get what's best for this area. And I think that's what's actually going to work out, Paul. You're going to see this time is that somebody's going to get in the race. Donald Trump is going to put his little finger on the scale, and people are going to be reminded that for 5 years, Marjorie Taylor Greene did absolutely nothing for this district. And at the end of the day, I don't think they want to go back for that. And they're going to say, you're going to see in this one that they're going to say, let's give Shawn Harris a chance because Shawn Harris is never leaving Northwest Georgia. We got people that are trying to move into Northwest Georgia as we speak to get in this race just to make a name for themselves.
You know, as I grew up in this veteran space, I was honored to have Max Cleland as a mentor and friend. The great senator from the state of Georgia. You know, he's a great son of Georgia, a triple amputee. Folks don't know Max Cleland's story. He was an incredible American, and I was honored to be his friend and have him as a mentor. But he ran in a very different time. I think I wrote about this in my book. There was a moment where John Kerry asked a group of us, who should be my running mate? And he ended up picking Edwards. I said Max Cleland, because Max had this amazing connection with the people of Georgia and with people of all backgrounds. When you saw Max, nobody cared if he was a Democrat. But that was a very different time. And I appreciate your candor. A lot of folks will say, look, I need ballot access. The forces are too strong against me. And I think we all have to remember, especially as an independent community, we need to make that easier. We need to solve the ballot access problem. We need to solve the fundraising problem. We need to solve the training and development program. And we need to be able, we're trying to do this at IVA, create a network of other veterans who can have your back. But, you know, you're going after, you know, outgunned and outmanned. And we don't know who it's going to be on the other side, right? It probably will be something like what we saw in Tennessee special election. They're going to find a retired West Point guy who will just spurt out whatever Donald Trump wants. But you've also got the opportunity now to say, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene basically lied to you. She said she loved Trump, and now she's flipped and done a J.D. Vance in the last 3 or 4 days. Can I ask you, what the hell is going on with her? You know her, you ran against her. Can you explain it to those of us who, like, she's now shape-shifting, and she's on The View talking like somebody took over her mind and body. I mean, what's going on here, really?
You know, Paul, I would tell you, it's not funny, but as a military guy like yourself, we actually had a plan put together that said, if we went to sleep and we woke up the next day and Marjorie Taylor Greene had got out of the race, now what? And believe it or not, 5 weeks ago, prior to this, we started saying, wait a minute, Marjorie has changed her position all the way to my talking points, talking about affordable housing, talking about affordability, healthcare, all those kind of things. And we were saying, she's going to get herself in trouble with the Republicans. She's going to get herself in trouble with Donald Trump. So when we finally saw that it blew up and the divorce actually happened, we were not surprised. What we're saying right now is this. Yes, this is hard. Paul, I would tell you it's hard. But hell, you mentioned that my career started in the Marine Corps. Getting on those little yellow prints, your footprints down there in Paris Islands is not easy. My entire career in the military was not easy. As you know, you don't go from private all the way to Brigadier General, and it was easy. So that's the way I look at this race here. This is a challenge. If it was easy, then guess what? I can just raise cattle and be happy. At the end of the day, the people here in Northwest Georgia need a leader, need somebody that's going to fight for them. And guess what? Marjorie Taylor Greene has left a beautiful blueprint that I can use to let people know this is what you don't want. I think that's a key piece because now we actually have people that are joining my team that are Democrats, independents, and Ronald Reagan Republicans. And that's how we're going to end up winning this race because they want something different. And I'm that guy that's going to give it to them.
I think it cuts to the core of who you are and who veterans represent on this landscape. You can say, look, I'm the integrity guy. I'm the guy who served this country. I love my community. You can trust me to be honest, right? And you've got, Donald Trump over here who's going to pick somebody who you probably never heard of until now, and you can't trust him because he's all over the place. And then you got Marjorie Taylor Greene who told you she loved him, and now she found Jesus overnight, and you can't trust anything coming out of her mouth. I don't know if she wants to run for Senate or she's looking for a Fox News or Newsmax job. I don't know.
She might be trying to get on the View.
Sorry, go ahead.
She might be trying to get on the View. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's, she's always been a click monster, right? Like she wants to get the attention and she knows how to get it. And even with this, I mean, you feel like everybody's kind of getting tired of her crap. And now she's got a new song and she's getting everywhere. And maybe that's the positioning. And at the same time, maybe she is understanding that there's some opportunity to create an alternative to Donald Trump that still focuses on the issues that her people care about, but isn't all in on Trump. But I do think she's always had a unique ability to snatch the mic in a bad way by creating controversy for the most part. And it feels like she just found a new way to do that. And the expense in the wake is the people in Northwest Georgia, who frankly look like crap because of her, because she's insane. And she says terrible things. And I think it reflects really poorly on all the people in Northwest Georgia.
Yeah, I would tell you, Paul, there's a couple of different, when you look at Northwest Georgia, we could break it down. I won't go too far in the weeds, but we have roughly about 20,000 plus veterans here in what we consider the 10 counties of Northwest Georgia.
Saw that. Yeah.
With that being said, we only have a VA clinic now, very small clinic in Rome, Georgia. Then in order for us to go get additional health care on the veteran side, we have to go either to Atlanta, Georgia, which many of our veterans are scared to drive downtown Atlanta with all the crazy traffic, or we have to go all the way up to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So what I've been saying to our veterans is, elect me. Obviously, I'm part of the family. Nobody has to brief me on whatever's happening to us in the VA, good, bad, and different, or trying to get an appointment. I'm going to make that part of my thing to make sure that we have good health care for our veterans here and then access to it for our veterans. So that's one piece. But the other piece that you never hear Marjorie talking about, Georgia's number one industry is agriculture. Right now, our farms are going down the tubes. She never does anything about it. And Paul, I would tell you, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, here at I think it's about 11:30 or whatever damn time it is we doing this. But what I would say to you is, I'm not sure has Marjorie Taylor Greene even went back to work this week. I want to make sure you clearly understand that. Yeah. Congress went back to work on Monday. I think Marjorie is still here in the district doing absolutely nothing. And the question is, if you don't show up to work on any other job and miss 3 days, you just can't show up. You got to come in with a doctor's slip. So Marjorie's getting paid to do absolutely nothing. And just so happened, she's just trying to make it to January 4 so that she can actually lock in her retirement and insurance for life. And just think about that is the people here in Northwest Georgia are dependent on her She's already said she's going to quit on him. And then, if I'm not mistaken, check me, she has not voted on anything this entire week. So for all practical purposes, she's not at work.
I think that's important because I've read this, and her retirement would click in after a certain date, right? And
Yes.
so if she wanted to show that wasn't her motivation, then she could quit the day before, right? And say, hey, right, you know, I don't want to go on the dole. I don't want to be, you know, taking taxpayer monies and I'll quit. But I don't think we're going to see that. But it's an important point under the hood of how the bureaucracy of Congress works and how it often benefits folks, right? The revolving door. And this is another example of how Congress does a whole lot better than the average folks in Northwest Georgia. I don't know where she's been. I mean, maybe she and Pete Hegseth were meeting at the same time during the missile strike to cook up some kind of new demented version of The View to go on Newsmax, but we'll find out. We'll find out. All right, let me ask you the last question here. You don't know who you're running against, right? So you just got to keep banging away. You know, you have my support. You know, I wish you were an independent. I understand why you're not. And I think that's a really important point for this community to understand that a guy like you needs to have a choice. If we can say, hey, you know what? If you run as an independent, you'll get ballot access, you'll get fundraising, you'll get media, you'll get a network. But right now, you're a practical guy and you want to serve your community. It's where a lot of people fall down. But I do think that that's changing. And let me ask you, you just came out as a retired general. I've talked a lot about the patriotic purge and how I think they could be the spine of our independent movement. I think there's a lot of guys and gals like you that are coming out that want to serve but don't want to be a Democrat or Republican. Can you address that? Do you think that's true? And how do we get them to step into the ring?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me a question, and thank you for that question. Because let me ask it two ways. The first part of it, when I win, I plan to build my team with a coalition across the table so that I'm always reaching across the table. I want to make sure I'm the Democrat. I want to make sure that I got independents on my team. I also want to make sure I got Republicans on my team so that when we writing policies or trying to do things for this district, we're looking at everybody. And then I'll speak to your question. As a soldier or as a veteran, you're right. Our entire career, we never tell anybody if we're a Democrat, independent, or Republican. We never do that. We just keep doing what we need to do. We do need to get to a point where, as an independent, a veteran could step into that arena and people can come around him or her and they can actually get elected. Right now, that may be in one or two states, but it currently here in Georgia, the way this crazy system that we have set up, I'm ashamed to say that, but I will tell you who makes the difference in who gets elected is our independent voters. Those are the ones that actually move left, right, and in between. And right now, the independent voters are actually supporting me 100%. So I thank them 100%. But I do want to make sure, let me just say this before we jump off. When I win this thing, we will have 3 offices here in our district. I know it's a little bit down in the weeds, but I want people to know this because Marjorie does not have an office here in our district. But in my district, not only will they be able to go and ask for questions for Shawn, but I want to have an office in that district that has a person in there that's a veteran that knows how to help veterans fill out their paperwork so they can get their benefits. Physically do it, and it's for free. And I don't want to scam dollars in there trying to help them get from 90% to 100%. So I want to make sure that my 3 offices around this district sets it up for veterans that can actually go in and get real help every day, real results. And then on the weekend when I come home, I will go and sit in one of those offices every weekend for a few hours. So if somebody wants to talk directly to me, they can come and talk directly to me because that's what a representative is supposed to do.
I love it. That's where the rubber meets the road. I mean, come see the general. You know, they had that commercial. Come see the general. Come see General Harris. If you're in Northwest Georgia, he'll be your get shit done guy. I really, really do appreciate your candor and your honesty about it because we do talk a lot about it on this show. And I think this is a moment where we need to flood the zone with leaders. And you're a positive leader. You're bringing a great example. You're not a BS person. You care deeply about your community. And especially if you're running against someone who turns out not to be a veteran, there's going to be a real choice here. And I hope you'll come back often. I'm going to ask us to shift if we can. We've been deep into politics and national security. I want to talk about something good.
Something good. Oh, something sweet. Feel the fire. Feel the
I love Georgia. I'm just going to tell you that because you're on the show. I mean, I think I had a mailing address in Georgia at some point because I spent time in Columbus and Augusta and in Savannah and Atlanta, and I can't tell you how much I've driven around Georgia. But I love the state. I don't know if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan. I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but I want to pick on something good. I'm in California, and I think, you hear in the media, especially the right-wing media, people shit on California a lot. This place is amazing. There's no place like California in the world. The beaches, the mountains, the people, the diversity, the food, the music, just the energy of California and the pride in California. Everybody knows about Texas pride and places like that, but I've been here for a couple of days now, and I just want to celebrate California. It's a beautiful place. It's an amazing place. It's almost like 5 countries in one. I spent a lot of time here. There are a lot of veterans all across the state. I think they may still have more veterans here than anywhere else in America, from San Diego all the way to the top. And I just want to say my something good on this Thursday is California. Over to you, sir. General Shawn Harris, what do you got? What's something good?
Well, I would tell you, yes, I love the Georgia Bulldogs and all of that. But my good today is my little hometown where I'm from, Blakely, Georgia, Early County Bobcats. Those guys are in a big game Friday night. They're going to win it, and then I'm going to see them at the Dome up here in Atlanta. So that is my thing. I'm shouting out my high school, Early County Bobcats. Go Bobcats. I look forward to seeing you in the Dome.
I'm staying on this because I don't know if you know, I'm a football coach. I love high school. There's nothing better than high school football. I mean, whenever I was stationed in the South, and I've been stationed all over the South, I would try to go out and watch a football game. I remember being in Alabama and seeing Anniston versus Oxford, and I would try to get out. I mean, can you just talk about this for a second? Like, talk about Friday football in your hometown. Talk about what it's like and what that community feels like right now going into December with the Bobcats doing what they're doing.
Man, I tell you, and this is the coolest interview ever, because less than 3 weeks ago, I got a chance to slip out the back door and get back down to Southwest Georgia and go to my hometown. It's supposed to be very quiet. I walk into a restaurant on the square. It's called the Fourth Out. Go in, sit down at the table, and I'm just about to order my food. And an elderly gentleman walks up to the table with his cane and stuff. And I look up and look, man, all that General Harris, all these titles that they gave me, that stuff melted away, because guess who it was? That was my high school football coach, Coach Rieckhoff. And when I saw him, we just sat down, had a great conversation, and life was good. So you as a football coach, man, I know we're veterans and all of that, but coaches, teachers, those are the people that shape people's life forever. When I saw Coach Rieckhoff, it was like I was, again, 15, 16 years old. And to be honest with you, I want our team to win. I can't get down there Friday night, but they get to Atlanta, I'm going to be out there cheering, and I want to be standing right beside my old football coach, my old players that I was with, and cheering these young kids on, that they're so young, they could be my grandkids. But guess what? It was priceless to see somebody that knew me, that everything that I am today was hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams. And I told him that night. I said, Coach, you knew me before all of this stuff, and I got to thank you, because you are the one that pushed me and everybody else to do something after we walked off that football field. So again, thank you all. Thank you to you as a coach. Thank him. And Paul, I would tell you, man, I done got a whole lot of questions in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but that was the best question ever. This would be the only one that I actually remember, because, and look, when it's all said and done, this will be the piece of your show that I will have when people come in my man cave. This is the piece that it'll be playing on the wall when I talk.
This is the good stuff. This is the good stuff, and I want to stay on it because it's important. Hopes and dreams, right? You said hopes and dreams. When I was 14 years old, I was in a bad place, and I've said this a lot. Football saved my life, and Coach Jim Hunter saved my life. I was a freshman in high school. I was lost. My family was in a bad place. It was all coming at me, and I wanted to play football so bad. And he looked at me and he said, "Boy, I'm going to make you the best center in the whole county." And I was like, "Center? I don't want to play center." And I had to go up against Warren Hunter, who was 300 pounds to get recruited by Georgia Tech, and he beat the crap out of me every single day. And there was another guy named Bruce Matija. Shout out to both those guys. I mean, they beat the heck out of me, but he gave me the hope, and he gave me the toughness. He was a Vietnam vet, And he was from Prairie View, Texas, and I love him very much. I'll always love him. But the thing you said is so important was he believed in me.
Yes.
And he gave me hope and he gave me dreams that were so much bigger than I could imagine. And that's not just what football is about. That's what sports is all about, right? It's about planting those seeds, and those coaches are at the point of attack that's so important right now for our young people. And the community component, right? Like, I'm rooting for the Bobcats now. I'm all in. So you got to send me a note. We'll update everybody on how the Bobcats do. But no matter how the score comes down, they're winning, and your community's winning because they got you out there, man.
Outstanding. Well, hey, thank you for having me today,
what about Georgia? What do you think about Georgia? I mean, we got Indiana and Ohio State look good, but Georgia's always right there, and Georgia's mean. Like,
it's no need to worry about Georgia. Georgia's going to be all right. We're going to win another championship. I guarantee it. We're good. We are good. I wish we didn't have to play a game this week and let some people heal up, but that's okay. We're going to be just fine.
They always play defense. They always run the ball. They always execute. I mean, Georgia's a machine, and I don't think they get enough respect and because it just kind of been there for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that whoever, I would not be surprised that final matchup is Ohio State or Indiana against Georgia, and that's going to be a smash fest.
That's going to be a smash fest. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, sir, I really appreciate you. I'm wishing you all the best on your campaign. Please come back and join us. Thank you for offering this perspective. Thank you for your many decades of leadership and service. Service about sacrifice, and you and your wife and your family and your grandkids. You're a tremendous example for folks in this time of need. So I appreciate you, and I'm rooting for you, and I hope you'll come back again, sir.
Thank you. And Paul, thank you for your service. I appreciate you, brother. And the answer is yes, anytime. And Paul, I'm going to say the same thing I said to everybody. Come on down to the farm. We'll do it from the farm.
I would love that. I would love that. I'd love to make that. You know, I just got an invite to go to the Army-Navy game from our friend Wes Moore, who's the governor down there. I have a real problem because it's also well, I'm not going to say. There's a family event that day that's very important. That is a secret, but I have to be at that. So I'm like, oh shit, I can't go to the Army-Navy game. I got this family thing. But maybe I can meet you down at the Army-Navy game. Next year, it's going to be at MetLife in New Jersey. So maybe we can get you up for that, and we'll have a box with everybody and get a couple of the Bobcats up there too.
There you go. All right. Thank you, bro.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. All right, folks, we are daily now. We're going to keep bringing these conversations to you every single day. Subscribe, follow us on YouTube, go to independentamericans.us. Get the merch. We got some merch out there, and join our Patreon community. Chip in a couple bucks if you like this show to help us keep it going. As I mentioned, I was on News Nation, MS Now, CNN yesterday. There's going to be more to come. I'm going to try to continue to add perspective and light and talk about how independents and independent veterans are a real source of hope. If you are an independent veteran and you're smelling what we were cooking today, check out independentveteransofamerica.org. We are recruiting. And if you're a Democrat or Republican and you're a veteran and you want to step up in this moment, you know, we need voices of all kinds because America's divided, but we at Independent Americans are working to change that, bringing the light to contrast to heat. Country over party, people over politics. You know the deal. Busting up the status quo. And this movement is growing. And we're bringing the hope that fuels our democracy, the hope you saw from General Harris today. If you enjoyed this episode, share it far and wide. Share his story. I think people need to hear from his positive voice, his positive example, and you can hear about the Bobcats. Invite others to declare their independence. And stay vigilant, my friends, because eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. And know, as you saw today especially, you're not alone in your vigilance. We're all vigilant, and we're all in this together. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. Thank you for tuning in to Independent Americans. We will be back with a Friday episode tomorrow. We will do Friday football. That's coming up. We'll make our picks. I'll see you tomorrow. Good luck to the Bobcats, and stay vigilant, America.
Powered by Righteous Media.